Hello, this is David Arnold. In this presentation, we will use Photoshop's Match Color Adjustment tool to transfer the unique color tones from this late 19th century stereo card into two contemporary photographs. This example and this second example, which were both created using the Stereo Realist 35mm camera loaded with Kodak's PORTRA 400 negative film. We'll then transfer our colorized contemporary stereo images into the frame from the card from the 19th century. Our 19th century stereo card, which we have open in Photoshop, is from the Truman Ingersoll stereo card collection, which became very popular after 1898. The stereo images in this card were hand-tinted, and this card was called a reproduction view and was from the cheapest grade of card published by the Ingersoll Company. Also referred to as a lithoprint, these cards were sold in sets of 100 views for 85 cents and were distributed through the Sears and Roebuck catalog. The lithoprint process generated a very unique warm tone, which we'll be transferring to our contemporary film. I was particularly taken with the way that the lithoprint process rendered the water in this image and felt it would be a really good match for our contemporary examples. All right, so let's get started. Our first step is to check to ensure that our images are approximately the same size. So with the stereo card open, we're going to go to Image Size, and we see that it's 2213 high. All right. And we go to one of our contemporary stereo images, and we go to Image Size. And we see that it's a fairly close match. The contemporary image is just a little bit larger, which should be good to allow us some wiggle rooms when we insert this image into the 19th century frame. So that part looks good. All right, my next step is to select each image window, and I'm going to have them selected on different layers in Photoshop. And then I'll apply a layer mask. So what I first need to do is make a selection of this window, and I'm going to use the Quick Selection tool. The Quick Selection tool is 1, 2, 3, 4 down, Quick Selection tool. And it's brush driven, meaning I can set a size to it and a hardness, like all of our brushes. At 0 hardness, it's going to be a fuzzy selection. At 100%, it will be a hard edge. In this case, I don't want it to be really hard, and I don't want it to be really fuzzy, so I'm going to set it at about 75 range. I'm doing so I want to preserve some of the choppiness that we see along the edge of this window here, and some of the other imperfections that we see in the printing process. I want to be able to transfer that into the contemporary example. So I'm going to go ahead and start using I'm going to use a brush and the Quick Selection brush. The bracket key makes it bigger and smaller, left and right. You can see bracket keys are right next to the P key. So starting fairly large, I get most of the image inside the window. Then I make the brush smaller to do some refinements of the selection. So it has the plus sign now, so that adds to it. If I hold down the Option key, I get the minus command. And I want to push back some of the selection around that edge there and along the bottom, so that that's not part of the window that I'm going to create. Now this will be transferred to a layer mask, so I do have the opportunity to refine it when it's in the layer mask. So just push it back a little bit in there. Get that little bit in there too. All right, so that looks pretty good. So that took me a little bit of time. And any time that you take a little bit of time in making your selection, you're going to want to save it in case something happens, or you want to be able to refine it. So to save a selection, you go to select, save selection, and I'm going to call it right window, and 1, and hit OK. So that selection has now been saved. All right, so so I can Command D, deselect, and I can bring it back when I need it. Okay, so I'm going to load the selection. So I need to go to Select, Load Selection, and I'm going to go to the right window, and there's our selection. Now I'm going to transfer the color tone from this selection into one of our contemporary examples. So I'm going to click over to the contemporary example, and I'm going to transfer it using the Match Color command. So to do so, I go to Select, Adjustments, Match Color, and I first need to select the source, which is the stereo card, and it brings in the color tone from that image. And I can adjust the luminance, which is the lightness or brightness of the color, and the color intensity, which is another name for the saturation. And I also can I can fade that in if I want to feather it out a bit. I can neutralize it to eliminate the color cast, but in this case I don't want to eliminate the color cast. The color cast is partly what I want to transfer into the image. I can also use the selection that I've made. Right now it's selecting the entire image, including the green frame, or I can choose to use the selection just inside the window, and you can see how that is quite a bit different when I select that. So I'm going to use the selection in this case, and I'm going to give it just a little bit, touch a little bit more, like so, remembering my numbers. I can also save those selections if those statistics, if I was doing a number of them, but I've just made a very simple change, so I can just remember those 2 numbers and transfer it to the next file. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to go to the other stereo image and do the same thing. Image, Adjustments, Match Color, and I'm going to select the stereo card, and I'm going to hit use the selection, and I'm going to remember that 108, and 105. There we go, and looks good, and hit OK. So those colors have been matched between those 2 images, and now I can transfer them back. I can transfer them over into their stereo card. So we'll do that in our next step. All right, we're back on the stereo card image, and we're going to transfer the contemporary examples into the windows here. So I'm going to go, and I have loaded, I've got the selection for the right window loaded. So I go over to my first example, and I'm going to use this one here, which is a little bit, it's at just a little bit larger, so it's going to put that one on the right. And I'm going to select it. So I'm going to do a Command, move the layer over so you can see the whole thing. Command A, Command C, that copies it. Command A selects all. So I'm going to come back to the stereo card. I have the selection here, and I want to paste that image into this new window. So I go to Edit, Paste Special, and Paste Into, and it brings it into the new window. And you can see there's made a layer mask and brought it right in. So I can I'm going to do that for the next one, and then we can make our adjustments on the sizes once I get both of them in. So I'm going to go ahead and load the selection I've made for the left side. So I go to Select, Load Selection, and I want to get the left window. So the selection is now up, and I go back to our other example, and I do a Command A again, which is select all, Command C, which is copy, back to the stereo card. I go to Edit, Paste Special, and Paste Into, and there it is. So what I need to do now is I need to make an adjustment on the sizes. It looks pretty good there. I may want to get more of the, let me go ahead and select both of those layers. So if I hold down the Command key, I get both of them selected. I can use my Move tool, and I can move those around inside the window. Let me move the Tab key will make the all the layers and panels go away. The panels go away, and I can better navigate and see what I'm doing. So I can move it around and see if I can get it to the point where I want it. Want a good alignment of the. Yeah, a little better. There, that looks pretty good. We can see that we also are a little bit off on our horizon line. So I can bring the ruler down. You can see, are we a bit off? Just a little bit. So I still have it them selected. So I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. Command minus, and then I'm going to do a Command T, or free transform, and I can just ever so slightly tweak the horizon, like so, to get it lined up a little better, and then hit the return key, and that sets it, and I can go ahead and bring back my panels, hitting the Tab key again, and that looks pretty good. All right, now I'm going to be replacing the type that we have down here, and I'm going to select a typeface that's going to be very close to the 19th century example. And so first what I need to do is make a retouching layer. So holding down the Option key and selecting the top layer in the stack, I go to the sub-menu flyout and do Merge Visible, and that copies the 3 layers into this new layer, which will be my retouching layer. All right, so what I want to do is get rid of the type, and to do so I'll just use the clone stamp, and I'll do an Option select below it, and I'm just going to copy through it and get rid of the type that's down there. All right, now next step is to get the type layer, and I'm going to go ahead and just make a selection of the type layer, and then I'm going to do a 13 dot the bow of Lady Washington, Morro Bay, California. So that's my new type layer, and I pull it down and position it down here below. Now I can also do some little retouching and kind of look up and look around and see if there's anything that needs to be adjusted in here. What I also want to do here is eliminate some of the, I want to get rid of the white background here that we have. So we just have it, just have the card itself. So I'm going to go ahead and select the retouching layer, and I'm going to use the, this time I'm going to use the magic wand and select the white, and I've got a selection around it, and I can go ahead and hit the layer mask button like so, and that you can see that that makes selected the white. I need to get the opposite of that, so I select my mask, Command I, and you can see the checkerboard there indicates the transparent area, and that white has been eliminated from the image, and it looks pretty good. I can, if I want to adjust the selection, I can do so by clicking on the mask and going into the Select Mask command, and I can shift this edge a little bit, or I can smooth it if I need to smooth it. That's a really good command to be able to use, but I'm in pretty good shape here, so I'm going to hit cancel on that. Our last step is to do a final tweak on the tones, and to do so we're going to launch a curves adjustment layer. And you can see let me pull the curves over here, properties panel, so we can see how that's going to look. I'm going to pull down on the 3/4 tones and up on the highlights here to create a very nice S-curve to increase the contrast both in the frame here for the stereo card and in the images themselves, darkening them just a little bit. We can click on those little buttons there, those little points, and use the arrow keys to up and down to really just fine-tune them. It's a nice little feature to be able to use. Okay, so we're going to save this, and our stereo card is ready for printing. Thank you.